Hello and welcome to another DIY crafting fun project from 12 Pod Designs. I'm Lori and today we are going to be making a rhinestone sublimation shirt with a design that I created and I'm sharing for free today. It's a Patriotic star subway tile art. So kind of a lot of things going on, but it's going to be really cool when we're done. So for this project, we need a t-shirt. I'm using from Rhinestone World, their Magic Flock, their adhesive, and their Rhinestones, some sublimation paper, a sublimation printer, and print out some designs. Now, the other thing is I have included all that, but if you don't have a sublimation printer, you don't have to do this part. You can use vinyl with the rhinestones and everything else like that. So I'm just showing you the Magic Flock from Rhinestone World. And again, I'll have a link in on the blog and here on YouTube as well. And this is it's like a flocking material to help with the rhinestones. So what happens is it cuts. I have the images for you in the files. One of the cut files is for the rhinestones, and if you're not going to do rhinestones, I actually have the image set up for you so that you can do vinyl or print a cut, whatever way you want to go with it. One of the things to remember if you're going to be doing rhinestones, do not adjust the size of the file. I did go fairly large to help accommodate that, but the reason why is that the rhinestones are set to a certain size, and if you adjust that and you're doing rhinestones, it will cause a problem. So if you're doing rhinestones, do not adjust it. It's 10 across on the chest, so you should be good there. So I went ahead and loaded it into my cutting machine, whatever cutting machine you want to use, and I'm just going to go ahead and pull it off. Now, one of the things is when I did this, I changed my blade, and I did some test cuts, and that test cuts came out fine, but I probably should have added another blade length to make it easier. So I just have to go ahead and pull these off. Now this Magic Flock is really sticky on the back side. It's real velvety on the one side and really sticky on the other side, and you can see with pulling it up. But again, that was just on me. I should have did a little bit more checking, and I also should have confirmed a few more dots before I pulled it out of the machine. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull these dots off, and we will be back a little later to show you how to apply the rhinestones. Okay, so now let's do our rhinestones. Now, again, this Magic Flock is really sticky, and so I pulled it off the backing, and I just applied it to my mat. And now I actually took the blue rhinestones, poured them on top of the Magic Flock, and used the brush, and just kind of moving them around so they flatten out. It's really kind of an easy process. Once in a while, they won't go into the little spots. No big deal. Just throw a few more rhinestones and use the brush, or if need be, use the tweezers to apply the rhinestones. So once you have all the rhinestones where you want them, all you have to do is brush anything extra off to the side, and then we're going to use the transfer vinyl that we use for the rhinestones. And I'm just going to cut it to size, apply it, and make sure you push down really well to make sure all the rhinestones adhere, and then slowly peel back, making sure that all the rhinestones stick. If they don't, go back and just kind of repress it again. And then I'm just pulling the Magic Flock off and sticking it back on. You can use these templates multiple times. Just make sure you're sticking them onto something because they will dry out on the back side. So make sure that you stick them back down. But I can go ahead and make more stars in the future. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other ones, but this time I'm going to pre-cut just to make sure that everything's good to go, because we're going to use the Parchment Method to line everything up so that I just have one star image. So again, we're just going to lay the Magic Flock down, and you can see I have one side marked with W for a white and R for red, and I'm just using the crystals, and I'm just again going ahead and applying all the crystals, making sure that they move and are in the right direction that I want them to be. And again, if they're not, just pick them up and move them with the tweezers. So once that's done, we will apply the backing and go from there. And now we're just going to repeat that same process for the red stones, flipping them, making sure everything is in place. And then once we're done with that, we're actually going to use the Parchment Method. Again, Parchment Method just isn't for vinyl anymore. You can use it for your rhinestones, everything else to help make sure that you have everything lined up. So then once we have all of our rhinestones in place, just move all the extras off to the side. And we're going to lay our parchment down and line everything up. Lay the parchment down. Again, remember the backing or the transfer is really sticky. So I'm just going to move everything around. Looks good. Looks like where I want everything to go. I'm going to push down on the one side, lift it up, pull my parchment down, and just push everything down. And again, I'm making sure that everything is pushed down nice and tight. The crystals were a little bit higher than the red ones were. They're both SS10s, but they were just a hair taller, so I really made sure I pushed down. And again, I just applied the backing onto it so that the rhinestones weren't going anywhere on me before I got them to the heat press and things. So looks good, and now we're ready to go on to do our sublimation. And again, stick those right back onto the backing so that you can use them again and make more rhinestones. So now I'm going to take the sublimation sheets. I actually printed the background, which I'll include in the free files for you guys if you want to use this, on 13 by 19 because I have the wide format printer. If you don't have the wide format printer, you can always do multiple copies and tape them together, do whatever you need to do. And I'm just going to scrunch up the shirt and move it around on top of it. And then I'm going to lay my other piece over it as well. It might have been a little easier for me to tape the edges together so that when I go to flip it, it was a lot easier. But you learn. So again, this is I'm calling it more of a faux tie-dye effect, just using our sublimation. Now that the press is ready to go, I'm just going to push down, and I want to make sure that you have a good pressure on it. So you want to make sure that there's really good pressure going on it. I am speeding this up because when I do my sublimation, I do mine at 400 for 60 seconds. And then once it's done, we're going to flip it over. My goal was to try and flip it all over at one time, but because it was 13 by 19, it was kind of hard to do the flipping. So I'm just going to lift the press up. I tried to flip, it was a little hot, so I pulled the one sheet off. Use the back side to help me flip it, and then I just pulled out the back side. Made sure everything was covered. And again, I'm doing the other side for another 60 seconds at 400, and you can see where the ink came off. There is some extras left on there. If I really wanted to, I could probably go in and scrunch them up and reapply it. So that is an option. And I actually had two colors. I have black and I have the red and blue. And I wish I would, my first thought was to go with the black, but I in the end ended up going with the colored one, and I wish I would have stayed black, but it is what it is. So look at how cool that looks with the funky tie-dye effect to it. So you can actually see all the fun patterns that I included on there. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to sublimate on the words. I'm going to find the center, and I do a 3-point where I grab the seams of the shoulder, the collar, and then the armpit to find that center seam. Then I'm going to insert my pressing pillow to make sure that we don't have any residuals. I'm going to find the center of my design, lay it on that center edge, put parchment on, and I should have used a bigger sheet of it. And again, it's 400 degrees for 60 seconds. Then what I'm going to do after that comes out is we're going to actually apply the rhinestones at 325 for 15 seconds. Now the first time I go through it, I'm only going to do about 8 seconds, and then it's going to get the full press when I do the blue. Okay, so now we're going to lift off our sublimation sheet, and again you can see where I probably should have did the black so it can show up, but it looks just fine as is. Now we're going to let the I have to bring the heat press down to 325, and then we're going to apply the rhinestone. Once it gets down to 325, I'm going to pull off the sheet, and I do the stripes first. So I'm going to take those, and I'm going to find and make sure that it fits in the design the way it's supposed to go. So I'm going to line those up. Then I'm going to grab my blue, and I'm going to make sure that that fits too, because I don't want to find out that all of a sudden my blue was off as well. So I'm going to lay that down just to confirm. Everything looks good. Then I decided I just wanted to do a slight shift, so I moved the stripes, moved them up a little bit, and then again I realigned everything just to make sure that everything was good. Okay, so now we're going to press down 325. I'm doing the first one for 8 seconds, and you need firm pressure, so make sure you have good firm pressure. Once that's done, pull that carrier sheet off, and look at how well those stick onto that shirt. And then once that's done, we're going to line our blue rhinestones back up, and this time we're going to do the 325 for the full 15 seconds. Now I did go through and add just a little bit more pressure, because again it needs to be medium to firm, and I just felt that I wanted a little bit more pressure on the press just to make sure that everything stays with those rhinestones. So we're going to line that up, stick it down, and good pressure on there. Once 15 seconds are up, we're going to remove our carrier sheet and see how cool the rhinestone shirt turned out. Look at how cool that looks, you guys. Turned out really well. Like I said, the only thing I wish I would have did is just left the black words versus the color because of the busy background. But it's going to be a cool shirt, and I will enjoy wearing it. So I will share pictures next. Thank you, and stay tuned for next week when we do our next DIY. Have a great week.